Welcome, everyone, to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross. Today's episode is a conversation with Alex Gruskin of Cracked Racquets. You can find his stuff at the Mini Break Podcast, the Great Shot Podcast. One of my favorite people to talk tennis with for one of my favorite shows of the year. After the first week of Wimbledon, round of 16 is behind us. Quarterfinal is ahead. I start with some storylines, and then we will go through every single men's quarterfinal match, give our thoughts, give our predictions. Before we do that, I'm just going to tell you everything we hit on. We do the Alcaraz-Sinner debate. We do a little bit of Tim Van Rijthoven talk, flash in the pan, here to stay. What is going on with the Dutchman? The gap between Djokovic and Nadal and everybody else on grass, discussing if that exists. If so, how big is it? And Nick Kyrgios, what's going on here? How much of a chance does he have to contend for this title? And something that I didn't talk about on purpose after the Tsitsipas match. What does he mean for the sport? I know that's been discussed a lot over the course of his career, but seems apt that we revisit it. And Gruskin and I think bring a pretty important perspective, I think, to this, because we are in the demographic of the younger tennis audience. So all of that and more. Without further ado, here's Alex Gruskin. We're joined once again by Alex Gruskin, the voice of Cracked Racquets, good friend of the program on many times at this point, and excited to get into the quarterfinals and beyond at Wimbledon. Gruskin, appreciate you joining me again.
Always a pleasure. I bow to you, as is the custom when it comes to Wimbledon, and obviously our power dynamic between the two of us. Always a pleasure to get the chance to join you. And for Monday Match Analysis fans who missed it, Gill calling the SoCal Pro Circuit semifinals on our Cracked Racquets stream this past weekend. That's Gill at his best, folks, and so always a pleasure to get the chance to return the favor here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure many of the viewers were tuned in. Speaking of bowing, would this be approved at Wimbledon, what I'm wearing right now?
That's a great question. I had the thought, if you put it on post-match in like the press conference, they'd be like, well, it's a little chilly. So, you know, he has to cover his arms. There's a draft going through. It's centerfold, though. You could say I wear my heart on my chest, and maybe they'd laugh at the joke and be like, we'll allow it. The sad thing is, you know, Djokovic Fokina is going to get fined $5,000 for skying that ball on match point. That's a fine, a 4-figure fine. That to me is absurd. Like, that is infuriating. If that skying a ball cost me $5,000, there'd be a lot of life choices reconsidered after that.
It feels like when something seriously bad happens, the fines are not enough. In the same breath, when stupid, meaningless stuff happens, the fines are too much.
Yeah, no, like Kyrgios drops an F-bomb, it's $15K. But like, again, I could use my racket cold cock and like decapitate a lines person, and they're like, $250.
Yeah, right. We're going to get into all of the quarterfinals, pick them all. I want to hit the storylines at the top. We just watched Monday and it wasn't Manic. What do you think of the new schedule here? You play on Sunday. It's like a normal tournament now.
I'm still a little hungover for my Sunday at Wimbledon strawberries and cream, so I won't lie that it gets a little overwhelming in the stomach at these days. I mean, I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I actually have felt, and maybe I'm projecting my own feelings onto the past month of play, but for the first time in my lifetime covering tennis, it felt like this grass court season actually mattered. And part of that was due to the fact that this Wimbledon isn't offering points. So we got to see the Daniil Medvedevs of the world, the Stefanos Tsitsipas of the world, Nick Kyrgioses of the world, not just play Wimbledon, but play 2, 3, in some cases, all 4 grass court warm-up events. Normally, grass is just a blip in the radar, right? It happens so quickly. You forget it's there by the time you hit the Atlanta portion of the summer hard court stretch. I think the play's been outstanding. I think the players are getting better on grass courts. Like, I know this isn't a storyline we're going to talk about. Big picture. Wasn't this grass court season a massive victory for Stefanos Tsitsipas? Don't you feel way better about him on this surface moving forward than you did 12 months ago? Because it's just like, after projecting his serve, forehand, volley game should work on this surface, it is working. on this surface. And I think he is the best epitomization of something that applies to a bunch of players. It just felt like we gathered a lot of data during this grass court season.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. I mean, my answer to your question, do I think more of him? I would say the same.
Okay.
It's nice that he picked up the Mallorca title, but I mean, I put all of this stuff on record, so it's easy for me to kind of evaluate this stuff. I had him as ninth in my power rankings, one behind Kyrgios, and I thought he'd lose in the third round to Kyrgios. So I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I think more of him now. I think he did exactly what at least I expected.
1997 coaches poll voted Michigan the national champions in football. Not since that poll has there been more integrity than the Gill Gross power rankings poll. So if he's ninth in that ranking, I'm going to take your word for it. We'll be able to monitor it moving forward. I also think, to your point, and you tweeted this out, I wanted to quote the podcast link where you said it initially, because I believe it was on a Cracked Racquets podcast where you offered I think Carlos Alcaraz is going to win not just one Wimbledon title, but it might be his best surface moving forward. After watching his first 3 matches, like, you could feel that steam picking up after what he did to Oscar Ota, which should probably be a $10,000 fine. That was ruder than anything Davidovich Fokina did on court during that 5th set. Like, it just, again, data gathering. Finally, after no 2020 grass court season, it feels like that's what we could do this year.
That wasn't first on my list of topics, but we'll hit it. I mean, who's the host here? I don't know. Alcaraz Sinner debate is one that we've been having for a long time. I've kind of claimed victory already with that and said, okay, I was right, because it goes back a while with us, and I was team Alcaraz, and you liked Jannik. You liked him a lot. I don't know if it was definitively more, but you were team Jannik in the debate. Okay, you got to win. You got to win. So how do you feel, and what did that mean to you?
I know we're not supposed to joke about prison, but it was tax fraud. So I think it's safe to say Sinner's moved ahead of Becker in the redhead power rankings. I think we can firmly put Sinner now one spot ahead of him. He's been magnificent, absolutely spectacular throughout the course of this Wimbledon. And for a guy who struggled with his physicality throughout the course of this season, and you can go through the individual record, you can look at each loss in a vacuum. Sinner 31-8 this season, all 8 losses either coming via retirement or a loss to a top 10 player, or I suppose the loss to Tommy Paul in the warm-up to this Wimbledon. But he finally looks like he has his footing on this surface. And we've always known when Jannik Sinner has his feet under him, forehand wing, backhand wing, the guy can produce elite power. And I've said this before, I think there's a lot of Tomas Berdych in him, in finding that speed and how relentless he is with the power tennis. But then, he's got the fluidity in the hips of a 19, 20-year-old. And so he's able to move in and out of the court. He's sliding a little bit on this surface now, which is just not something you'd expect. It's just a nightmare to deal with the weight of his shot on this surface. And again, if he lands the first blow, he wins the point because you're just not tracking down the second. So to answer your question, Team Sinner's feeling damn good.
The return has been sick. I mean, against Isner, it obviously stands out when you win in straight sets, when you avoid tie breaks for the most part, right? What did they play? 1?
Yeah.
Or 0? I think 1.
No, I think they played the 1 in the second set, right?
Right.
Second set.
Yeah, and that's it. So that means you're returning darn well. Then against Alcaraz, as I went over in my analysis after the match, he absolutely bullied Carlos's first serve, and which is no powder puff serve. He's averaging 120 on the first serve. He's not always putting it in a great spot, but still. So I agree with that. I agree about the movement. He's so balanced. And then, he's the other famous skier, childhood skiing prodigy. Him and Novak are sliding on the grass, and they're the skiers. Is that a coincidence?
We agree. Casper Ruud definitely did some skiing in his day. There's no way Casper Ruud.
Are we just profiling him because of him being Norwegian, or do we know this?
If he's on a Swiss slope, he's killing it. There's no way. Double black diamond, please. Fully profiling. He would look so good in a Canada Goose jacket. You just button him up, zip it all the way. He would just fit perfectly with that hair. But you're absolutely right. And the thing is, Sinner has always projected as this sort of returner, right? You look for Jannik Sinner was a top 15 club member, one of 8 guys to rank top 15 in both hold and break percentage last season, and it's usually the break percentage that has been ahead for him. You look in his career at the ATP level, 26.6% break percentage. That's a top 10 number for his career, and he's 21 years old. Again, his ability to strike the ball cleanly, to find that clean contact point every time, it's remarkable. But then the progress on serve. 4 straight years of growth in his hold percentage. He's up to 82.8%, top 20 number this season. He's sort of a spot server now. Like, I really enjoy how he picks, whether it's the slice wide on the deuce side to set up just +1 forehand to open court. Good luck tracking that ball down. Or on the ad side now, being able to jam people into the body just so he gets a +1 opportunity. It's the little things, and it's just like, it's the constant improvements. Every year, Jannik Sinner finds something to get better at. I thought last year it was the volleys. I think this year it's the spots on the serve, and he's 21. Like, we joke about it all the time.
He's 20, actually.
20. Yeah, it's turning 21 in August. Yes, I appreciate that. Again, big picture, it's like, man, quarterfinals on all 3 surfaces already in his career at the slams. That's special stuff.
Boom. I agree. He is hitting his spots well. He's so good at improving. It's, I think, the first thing that I noticed about him and liked about him as a prospect when he was rising up the ranks. I still think Alcaraz is a better prospect long-term, and that match didn't change this, but we will continue.
Well, here's the thing for Jannik Sinner, because I do want to ask you about the Alcaraz side of the equation, but for Jannik Sinner, how badly did he need this win? Like, you look again at the resume this season, the goose egg he put together in that Australian Open quarterfinal against Tsitsipas. That was just a miserable performance. And then, again, all the big opportunities: Rome quarterfinals, straight set loss to Tsitsipas; Madrid round of 16, 1-2 loss to Felix; the 3-set loss after winning the first set against Zverev in Monte Carlo. He just didn't have a signature win, and now he has one.
100%. All right. Here's the stat: tier 1 players, and that would include, so we're talking, okay, you can look at the top 10 stat, and that's one thing. I think he was 7-17. Now let's separate your Rublevs and Rudes from your elite guys. And if you take Djokovic, Nadal, Zverev, Tsitsipas, Medvedev, Alcaraz, he was 2-12. Might have been 2-13. One or the other. I promise one of them is right. So I'm with you. Oh, and those 2 wins, 2020.
No, I mean, you're so sorry.
Yes, he needed the win.
Well, it's tangent time. Is he a tier 1 player for you? Obviously, he has been for me.
Sinner?
But yeah, when you look at the tier 1 guys now, how many do you have? Djokovic, Nadal aside, outside of them, because they're not tier 1. They're tier.
That's it. It changes a little bit. Oh wait, what do you mean aside? Why are we putting them aside?
Because they're a separate tier. Because they're
okay. So we're talking about tier 2.
Well, no, they're not tier 1. They transcend tiers. It's like, let's get rid of these guys. Let's look past the Djokovic Nadal, which you can't do in this shot of this, but the everyone else tiers.
Okay, that's bizarre to me, but I'll answer your question. Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Alcaraz, although, again, yes. Okay. I'm just going to let that hold. I'm not going to defend myself. Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Alcaraz, and Zverev. That's it.
So no Sinner, no Felix.
No.
See, that's interesting to me. I think Sinner belongs in that tier.
After that stat you just heard.
Yeah, but
after now he's 3
Okay, but let me give you the records against everyone else, like during that stretch of time. 28-2 in 2022 against players ranked outside the top 20. Last season, he was 39-14 against players ranked outside the top 20. If you're not a tier 1 guy, you're just not going to beat Jannik Sinner. And I think he, Berrettini are like the 2 guys who, and it's not an anti-Italian thing, I swear, but like they're the 2 guys I just don't know what tier they should belong to, because it's like, you're not with Rublev. You're a tier above him. You're probably a tier above Casper Ruud as well, but like, I agree with you. I can't definitively put you with those other 4 guys.
Yeah, well, they're very similar. Like, we both were very confident that they're not going to get upset. They're not going to lose matches that they shouldn't lose, but but we're not very confident that they are going to make some noise unless it changes for Sinner at this tournament. Got to move
Sinner's
on.
tier 1. He's the gatekeeper player. He's the one, like, you beat him, you're tier
Yeah,
1. You don't, you're not.
I think Matteo is an even better gatekeeper.
Yes. Yeah.
But yes, Sinner is very
it
solid.
helps to have that chest when you're the bouncer at the gate. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Let's talk about, because again, it flows. Let's talk about the Nadal and Djokovic grass court specific gap, because the last couple of years it's felt real big. And this year there were some guys we liked coming into the tournament. Hurkacz we liked, Felix we liked, we liked Berrettini, and we didn't get to see that play out, of course, because of COVID. And a couple of others maybe as well. But I mean, based on how this tournament has played out, the gap doesn't feel any smaller. It still feels like there is a divide.
Well, it just feels like the delta between Djokovic and everyone is massive. It just feels like, and you saw it last night, he looked at the clock and he said, 57 minutes, start the clock. And it was just like, all right, break number 1, break number 2, set over. Break number 1, set over. And Novak's degree of physicality on this surface is just laughable. I mean, he and Halep, I know it's apples and oranges here.
No, I like it.
They're on a tier so far above everyone else from a physicality perspective. The depth they can generate, they can play real tennis on this court, which is just impossible to do. Now for Nadal, it's been so fascinating. It's like he's got an expiration clock on him. He's like, all right, you get 2.5 hours of really good Rafa. And like, if you can get, he needs to finish the match in that 2.5 hours, because as you hit 215, 220, as we saw today against Van de Sculp, it gets a little shaky. Things land a little bit shorter in the box. He's fallen on his tush as he's trying to track down drop shots. All these different things start to happen. And yet it's just like, outside of Kyrgios doing what Isner did to Murray on center court in the second round, like, we're destined for a Djokovic-Nadal final. Nadal is 3 wins away from 3 of the 4 legs to a calendar slam. He's 36 years old. He's essentially an amputee survivor on 1 foot, and it's just ridiculous the level of success we're seeing both of these guys have. So, yes, I do think the gap is there.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, the third sets in this tournament, I think we can go back further, and then there's a lot of stuff to refute that. But yeah, the third sets have been by far his worst set, and that'll be an interesting thing to track.
Has Rafa been impressive? I know that's an abstract adjective, but in your mind, has he impressed this tournament, or has he survived?
I don't think he's impressed. I definitely think but I also don't, if I say he survived, is that going to sound negative? Because I don't think it should, right?
Yeah.
My whole thing was he hasn't played in 3 years. He just had the foot ablation operation. He's not very good in the first couple rounds of Wimbledon ever. So why are we expecting him to destroy Ricardus Berankis? It's good enough to win.
Well said. The one thing he's doing exceptionally is hitting the backhand cross. Like, he is hitting that ball viciously
end line
right now.
Backhand looks great.
And just that ability to attack the open space, he's just more efficient at it than anyone not named Djokovic. And so, yes, I agree. Big picture, the delta between them is just Medvedev's not in the draw, but the delta's still there.
Yeah. And I have high hopes long-term. Medvedev at Wimbledon, I think very highly of what he can do. I think he's a return adjustment away. I mean, okay, a stat that Nadal just secured: 15 straight majors quarterfinals or better. So all I want to say is, like, look, did Felix get a bad draw? Yes, he did. Did Hurkacz get a bad draw? Yes, he did. Should that matter? If you are at the top, if you're top, should that matter? No.
Well, here's the pushback. Who was Nadal's biggest threat when the draw came out? It was Berrettini, and Berrettini was out due to COVID. And
yeah, that would have been in the quarters, though.
Yeah, but Cilic, RBA, same sort of deal. It's like those are the 3 of the 5 guys you circled before the tournament who are going to test Nadal. So I will listen to that argument for this tournament specifically because of how notable the examples are. That said, 10 years from now, if it's a Djokovic-Nadal final or even a Djokovic-Kyrgios final, as long as one of those 2 guys are competing in the final, there will be no asterisk next to this event. Like, as long as you see them, again, they're on a tier of their own. That's what matters.
Yeah, there won't be no matter what. And yeah, look, maybe I'm being unfair because if Cressy played Nadal in round 1, in that hypothetical world, do I think Cressy has a really good chance? I do, given all the circumstances.
Well, if Cristian-Garin wins this tournament, I'll put a footnote. Not an asterisk. I don't believe in that, but I'll be like, hold on. What happened? You're telling me Cristian-Garin won? No.
I just want to mention Tim Van Rijthoven because I felt bad in my coverage. I just haven't really gotten to him. So let's get to him now. Especially because you're the hipster that you are, and you probably followed him when he was 16s going through Kalamazoo and winning making the quarterfinals of Orange
ITF
Bowl.
Indoors Junior Tennis Champion Center. Riley Opelka beats him 7-6 in the third for the grade 1 title.
And there you go. Do you think, I mean, the question when something like this happens, and let's also be clear, it wasn't one tournament, it was two. He wins Hertogenbosch and he has a Wimbledon run. Clearly has and it's also, a big, loud game with a massive serve and a very powerful forehand, and he slices his backhand. But like, where do you think Tim Van Rijthoven goes from here?
That's the question. I want to see it. It's funny you say, like, I want to see it on a faster surface, right? Or just like a surface where it's a little grittier, or so, because I don't think slower surface is the right word, because in theory, you see how he tees up on the ball and you think you're going to give this guy more time to get into his ground strokes, to swing freely from the baseline. Isn't he going to just dictate freely at the same time? It started with the serve. I mean, Van Rijthoven was just lights out, and this surface amplifies that serve more than anything. And when you're holding, 90% of the time over the course of 2.5 weeks, yeah, you can close your eyes and swing freely on the return of serve. He had that luxury throughout the course of this run. And, now career, he's 8-1 in ATP tour level matches. They've all come on grass courts, right? He might've played one Delray Beach main draw back in the day, but like, that's it. And, you look for him, no challenger titles going into that run in the Netherlands as well. And now he's all the way up to number 104 in the world, obviously on the short list of players most pissed at the fact that there are no points being offered. It's a little vomit zone-y going into the summer, because it's like, can he go play Los Cabos? Can he play the John Isner Open in Atlanta? Can he play Newport, which he better be in the draw for already if he hasn't signed up? Like, yeah, he can play those, but am I certain he's going to get through Cincinnati or Master Rogers Cup, whatever it's called now, Bank de Canada, qualifying? Like, no, I'm not sure.
Me either.
Yeah, it's one speed. It's like one really good speed, but it's one speed.
Right. And we know there's a couple factors here. Yes, the leniency on the serve is a big one. But especially like the backhand, we see if you're just going to slice your backhand, you get away with that so much better on grass. With that being said, again, big guy, strong guy with a massive game, a good backhand slice. I could definitely see him being someone who year after year after year for a long time, nobody wants to play on grass. Would it be selling him short to predict, like, here's another Jiri Vesely? Is that selling him short, or is that pretty good?
You hit the soft spot. That's a player. It's tough because you talk about him being a big guy. How tall do you think Van Rijthoven is?
Well, no, he's heavy.
Yeah, he's exactly. He's thick.
But, he's what, 6'3".
Yeah, he's 6'2", which is like, how are you 6'2"? That's what I feel like. You are the tallest 6'2". I'm 6'2". Like, you are taller than me. I can't do that on the serve. I want to see him hit a backhand at shoulder height. Like, that's the one thing on this surface that I do think was helpful, is the ball was staying low. And for that one-handed backhand, it just seems like it was in the strike zone for him every time. And I would like to see on a clay court, on a grittier hard court, when that ball gets at his shoulder height, can he still swing through it as easily? There's like 5 players in the top 100. When you have a daily show, you got to fill segments, folks. We looked at the 200-pound club, just players who weigh over 200 pounds. There's like 5, and no body shaming, but just out of curiosity, there's like 5 of them in the top 100, right? I think Berrettini, with those chicken legs, is still like 192 or like something like that. Like, he's not even listed over 200 pounds. And it's just like, you're right. He's a thick guy. And these were all short, quick points, +1, move forward. What happens when that goes from a 90% play or 92% play to an 84% play. When you lose that extra 8%, how does he make up for it in his return game? I don't know.
Yeah, or when the average rally length goes up 2 balls.
Yes.
How are you dealing with that? By the way, I really liked that nugget.
Yeah.
If I posted it on Twitter, can Twitter handle that? Right? Is what I'm trying to ask you, right? Because obviously Twitter is a godforsaken platform. Would Twitter get mad that you're talking about players' weights? Which, by the way, for the record, if you want to know where I stand on this, this is sports. Weight matters.
Absolutely. It's transformational, and it's the way that you carry that frame. Like, Yuri Vesely is a different 200-pound frame than Matteo Berrettini, and Berrettini is a different 200-pound frame than Van Rijthoven. I think, like, how is Alex Zverev not 200 pounds? The guy's 6'6" and jacked. Like, you'd think just
he's not jacked. He's
extraordinarily cut. Extraordinarily cut. I'm not.
Yeah.
Again, And not
right.
Very lean full body. Yeah, exactly. Totally lean muscle, and there's enough of it. Like,
yes.
You just figure by process of, well, I see a bicep that's 10 pounds there, 10 pounds there. You have 6'6" legs, like, and he's not 200 pounds. I just think, in particular, with the wear and tear throughout the course of the season, you just can't be that heavy throughout the course of the year, because it's match after match after match, and to do that to your knees, like, it's not the early 2000s anymore. Carlos Moya is not walking through that door. Like, all the young Feliciano Lopez isn't walking through that door. You just got to be a little bit more fluid at this stage.
Yeah, the serve volleyers, when it was less baseline play, they were bigger. Like, they were husky.
Philippoussis was a unit. Like, let me tell you, like, bills and change.
Absolutely. Okay, that was good. That was interesting. And by the way, I'll add, while we're on the injury durability topic, TVR has had some injuries, but I believe it was a wrist, most notably. So that probably wouldn't be down to his weight, but I'll throw it out there.
There's a little Soderling to him too, where it's just like swing, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, it was very fun to watch. And okay, let me wrap it up with this: the run that he just had, life-changing financially. So while we analyze what the future looks like, that is not really the headline. The headline is what he's done. Because he's definitely changed his life. Even being able to enter in the tournaments that he's going to be able to enter in now is a big deal. Let's before we get into these quarterfinal previews, let's talk Kyrgios, which, by the way, I did have as my lead topic.
Okay, that's good.
So I'm
David Kane and I did 45 minutes on Kyrgios. I was ashamed.
And that's exactly, and that's what I'm trying to avoid here.
Yeah.
We're going to try to not do that. But let's talk Kyrgios first. And let's talk generally. Okay. We're not going to break down the Cristian-Garin matchup. We'll save that for when we go through the quarterfinals. Nick has never made a major semifinal. I'm asking you, what is the main reason for that? And is right now different?
So you throw that stat at me. Here's what I would turn at you. He has made the 4th round or further at 4 of the 8 Wimbledons he's played. Now, we didn't get to see the 2020 Wimbledon because it got canceled. And last season, certainly you look for him after playing the marathon match against Ugo Humbert. He was not physically prepared for the rest of that tournament. He has been very good at Wimbledon throughout the course of his career. And it makes sense with his serve, his ability to move forward, the steadiness of that backhand return. What's different is that it's all clicking for Kyrgios right now. Is that physically, he's as fit as he has been probably since he was 18 years old or 19 years old in that 2014, run to the quarters, where coming into a major. I mean, the guy played 3 consecutive weeks, and I know he withdrew that 3rd week of action, but he played 3 consecutive tournaments, got 4 matches in each of the first 2 events. We talk about Kyrgios being unsure about how fit he is going to an event. There was nothing more he could do to prove that he was fit than he did coming into this Wimbledon. So I think that's ingredient number 1 of what's different for him this season. And by the way, he looks 10 pounds lighter. Like, he just looks thinner out on court. Ingredient number 2 is, despite the non-tennis centric activities that sometimes he transpire during a Kyrgios match. That's the political way of saying he blows up from time to time. Despite that fact, Vasilishvili, first week of the grass court season, loses the first set 7-6, breaks in the very first game of the second set, wins the match in 3. The next week, round of 16 against Tsitsipas, loses the first set, breaks very first game of the second set, wins the matches in 3. Loses the first set against Tsitsipas, loses the first set against Paul Jubb, loses it to Nakashima and is grabbing the shoulder, and all tennis Twitter is saying is, oh, there's classic Kyrgios. And it's like, not really. Like, he has gotten through in each of these moments, and there is no tangible change in his on-court behavior, and yet clearly something has changed. And so that would be my second piece of the ingredient, is that he may distract with his actions on court, but they don't distract him from the performance on hand.
Agree on both counts. To me, the way I've been putting that second part is he wants really badly to win all year long. Now, it's the same, mental volatility. He's still looking for excuses constantly, yelling at his box, yelling at officials. He's still that guy. But I think the difference is he used to be a guy who actually wasn't all that invested and interested in winning the tennis match and showing off his skills. And despite him, and by the way, the reflection of that was a lack of effort. So A equals B. He wasn't that invested in winning, and he wouldn't try very hard. That even when he is blowing up, he is still trying. Like, the effort is there. And I think that's the biggest difference. And then, the fitness thing, I would actually push back a little bit on the fitness part of it. The grass tennis is just not very physical, especially when, with the way he is playing it. And we're about to see how the body holds up. But, yes, like it's nice that it's great for him that he still won the match today. But he was grabbing his shoulder. It was affecting him. It was difficult for him. So, yeah, I mean, coming off a four-setter against Tsitsipas, and this was against Brandon Nakashima today when he won in 5. I'm not going to, give him a check plus on durability after that. And that's my main question mark moving forward.
But it's a check. Like, he has a check now. You're right. It's not a check plus. Like, at best, it's a B or a B plus. But B or B plus is so much better than the D minus he was rolling into most of these slams with. And just, again, not since, when did he have the Asia run? 2018, maybe? I want to say it was at the end of that season where he was just locked in at the end of the year. And he put together that run of success where I think he won a title and made another deep run at one of the Masters events. And just, I just don't think he's been as fit since then. And I know the numbers are a bit misleading because he didn't play a clay court season, right? And if you refuse to do the things you're bad at, your stats are just going to look better because you're only doing the things you're good at. Like, again, all of us do that in our life in some sort of fashion. But the numbers are ridiculous. Like, he's holding 93.6% of the time. That's better than a prime Isner. He's number 1 right now amongst top 50 players on the ATP Tour. And, he's winning 56.8% of his second serve points, which I believe right now, according to Tennis Abstract, that number ranks third, I believe, right now behind Opelka. Let's see, overall pulling this up. Third behind Opelka and Kecmanovic. Shout out to you, Miomir. But the key is he's doing that while not booblicking, right? Like, his double fault percentage isn't 10%. It's 3.5%, which is about the average of top 50 players. It's how controlled he is on both serves. I mean, how many times against Tsitsipas was it love 40 down, and it was just big serve, serve plus a half volley, inside in forehand. Now it's add in Kyrgios. And it's just that success, the ability to do that on the surfaces that he's playing on, it's just going to work. And, there's a reason when you look at Kyrgios' record this season, again, career high win percentage for him now, 20-6 overall, 27 years old. We talked about the body size. Let's talk age now. That's what everyone likes. Age and weight. Let's get into it. 27 years old should be your prime. And I think this is prime Kyrgios.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. The second serve, I'm glad you brought that up. It is so phenomenal. And Bublik is a great example of a guy where if he's going to go a game where he's not going to make a first serve, you do feel pretty good. And with Nick, that's not necessarily the case. And that was a big deal in the Tsitsipas match. So I've never felt better about him. I don't think coming into a slam, at least in a very long time. I made him a dark horse again. I think as I did heading into Indian Wells, I did the same thing just because I think it's been pretty obvious that he's a better version of himself than what we've seen in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I was going to say perfect. Yes. Sorry, you're the host. Again, it's been a while. It's been
I
a
know.
long wedding. I'm still a little tipsy 2 days later. There's just a lot of free shots.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's never good when they're like, you need to go sing on stage, Alex. I'm like, no, please. And they're like, no, get up there. And you're like, am I that drunk?
Yeah.
But anyways, carry on.
Right. And this is a prime example, right? Because nobody knows what you're talking about. And it's fantastic. We got to talk. And I didn't approach this topic after the Tsitsipas match. So I'll do it with you. And it's also better with someone else. Language coming here. Warning, if you're with your kid, fast forward. Can Nick Kyrgios be an asshole and also still be good for the sport? I think he can. Like, I feel like we have two separate sects here. We have people saying that he's an asshole and that's bad. And then we have some people saying, no, this is all great. Everything's fine and he's good. And I think it's neither. I think both of those things can be true. No?
No, I think you need heroes and villains in every narrative to just add excitement, add reasons to be engaged. And for some reason, yes, Nick Kyrgios is the perennial villain in the narrative told so frequently. And I despise commentator criticism because go commentate a match and then tell me, oh, like I could do it so easily. Like, no, you'll find out once you hit that third hour, you're like, I got nothing left, folks. We're making it up from here. I did not like how, again, it's the pot calling the kettle black, right? When John McEnroe is up there, and John McEnroe, who's so perfectly suited to explain exactly what Nick Kyrgios is feeling on court, and instead it turns into, this is Wimbledon and the decorum here. We don't act like this on this stage, and that's the silliest thing in the world. And full circle moment here. Why am I a bit hungover? I was at a wedding this past weekend. That wedding, we were supposed to shoot photos. It got delayed. As such, everyone was sitting in the lobby watching Nick Kyrgios, Stefanos Tsitsipas. Everyone in that photo shoot locked in on the match as we were waiting. Simply put, I'm getting texts from my non-tennis friends saying, who is this guy? This is amazing, or this is awful, but it's a train wreck and I need to see it. How can it not be a good thing for tennis when it transcends tennis Twitter and breaks through on the mainstream conscious? The same way they're today on ESPN showing a graphic, Joey Chestnut, Rafael Nadal, 14-time champions in their respective competitions. That's a good thing for the sport. I think discussion of the sport is always good. Now, to your point, he's an asshole. Like, you can acknowledge something is again, all press is good press, right? Is how the saying goes. There's a fine line. There is a fine line. And I'm 26 years old. You're in your mid-20s. We don't really care about cussing. Like, he chews out a chair umpire every time. I don't love the abuse ever. I'm not condoning it. I'm not excusing it. But the man is an unequivocal entertainer. And every artist, as we've learned in this modern era, has different shades to them. Kyrgios is no exception to that rule. But to say it's not good for the sport, I think is just you're being a fool. It's a foolish thought.
Right. I mean, by what metric is it not good for the sport? Now, I mean, and I can second your experience because I mean, I had two people text me about the match. I was stunned to get a text about tennis from these guys. These two guys are texting me. Stunned. You have Bill Simmons, who, for those who don't know, has the second most popular sports podcast, at least in the United States. I don't know what the world rankings look like. He's a basketball guy, primarily. Second most popular sports podcast. He's tweeting about Nick Kyrgios. That was weird to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
So yeah, the guy does bring new eyes to the sport, which is honestly, I mean, everyone's trying to figure out how to do that. Everyone, every tournament, every broadcast partner, that is the goal. Certainly I would love if I could do, right? Everyone wants to do that.
Yeah.
In terms of like, if I could change it, if I could change Nick, I wish that we got the on-court swagger, the attitude, the the honesty towards, other players and competitors, and the some of the unique things. Just don't abuse the other humans on the court. I just wish I could cut that out, and then I would be much more supportive of everything that he brings to the table. But unfortunately, he is wrong all the time, incredibly hypocritical all the time, really just unable to take responsibility for any of his own actions, for any of his own mistakes. And the fact that he's constantly chewing out officials for no good reason and not treating them like dignified humans, you just I wish he didn't do that, and I can't support it. I got to call it like it is.
Yeah.
It's him being an asshole.
It's fair. No, nothing to push back. He plays with his emotions. He is an emotional human being. He has talked about that openly. And unfortunately, as wonderful as it is to see his passion thrive on the court, when he's clicking and he's getting the crowd going. Again, today against Nakashima was a fantastic example. At the end of the set, when he wins the match, apologies for the cussing, a big let's fucking go to the box. You could see the court, all of center court was getting amped and getting excited. And watching the McEnroe's pivot from the Tsitsipas match to today's match of, we might get Kyrgios Nadal, another blockbuster between those two. All-time pivot from the Mac attacks. You're right.
That's the thing. That's the thing, right? I mean, if Kyrgios plays Nadal in the semis, if Kyrgios plays Djokovic in the final, let's say that happened. We've never seen that happen. Anything like that with Nick at the end of a major. I feel like it will be it will be transcended. It will enter the mainstream, right?
So what's better for the sport? And your host, 3 a Tennis Show, all of you listeners definitely watch that. I'm sure if you haven't, you'll talk about it. But better for the sport, Kyrgios Djokovic or Nadal Djokovic in the final?
I lean Nadal Djokovic because I know what the result of that is. I mean, look, I could be wrong. Like I'd have to experience the whole Kyrgios thing before I understand what it would be. But my sense is Nadal Djokovic is still bigger, is still better for the sport.
I agree,
I don't think it's a stupid question.
Exactly. That's it. It's like, and we talked about the delta between Djokovic, Nadal, and the rest of the field. In terms of potential finals, Djokovic, Nadal, Djokovic, Kyrgios, anything else.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's see if we get that semifinal, a perfect segue into the quarterfinal previews. We're going to run through these. I don't want to dissect each one for 10 minutes, but we'll see what happens. Djokovic-Sinner will begin on the top of the draw. The head-to-head is 1-0. I remember their first meeting. It was incredibly underwhelming. They played in Monte Carlo. Djokovic won 6-4, 6-2, and then lost to Dan Evans immediately afterwards. I think this was last year in 2021. I'm fascinated though, like the Jannik that we saw against Alcaraz, I think it's the best I've ever seen him play. If he brings that, this is going to be great. That's my question. Is he going to bring that again? Like, is that who Sinner is right now or not really?
Well, he hasn't been broken in 2 matches, which is a good place to start. And you have to serve well. You have to give yourself a position to win free points. And look, the first set is critical for Jannik Sinner, obviously, just to build himself some sort of runway to play around with in the match because of the physicality Djokovic can bring on this surface. And what he's now won 21 plus 4s, 25 consecutive matches at Wimbledon, whatever the number is. And, again, it's just, yes, he dropped the set to Van Rijthoven, but Van Rijthoven had to serve out of this world in the second set just to win a set against Novak. And going back to last year's Wimbledon, he lost that first set against Jack Draper, lost a set in the final to Berrettini. Sure, he lost a second set to Sun Woo Kwon, but I'm throwing that one out. Like that Van Rijthoven loss of set felt much more real than that second set loss to Kwon in round 1. It takes that sort of service performance, a Draper, a Berrettini, a Van Rijthoven, to even get a set against Novak on this surface. And so does Sinner have that in him? I don't know, but certainly the return games are like he's the best returner probably Novak's faced in the past 2 years on this surface, and so he certainly has some weapons from the ground. But like, what's a win in this? Does Jannik Sinner have to get a set in this match for it to be considered successful for him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he should expect that of himself.
Yeah.
Now, just as an aside, like, you wouldn't be selling me on this being a good match if you're really thinking he needs a lot of help from his serve. I actually
Yeah.
don't think that's coming. I
Okay.
don't think there's enough on it, and I think Novak's gonna return that serve
That's
pretty
well, but
comfortably.
but he has served pretty like again, we
I,
talked about this earlier. It's
I
in
know,
him. Like I
I
it
know.
ha but yeah, you're right. Like so what does a Sinner win look like?
Well, here's what intrigues me about this matchup. I want to see them go backhand to backhand. First of all, Djokovic loves to set up patterns out of that cross court, and he's taken himself against almost everyone. He's if I'm going to go backhand and backhand, I'm going to win this exchange. Whether you miss first, whether I pull one down the line and do damage that way, or whether I get the short ball because my trading is a higher quality than you, and then I can use my forehand. But whatever it is, he loves that pattern, and I do think if we're gonna hit backhands, Jannik should be able to do it with Novak. And you look at guys who have played Djokovic well, Medvedev, RBA are a couple of them. Like these are guys who are, oh, you want to hit cross court backhands? I'm down. I can do that. So Sinner's definitely one of those guys. And that's why I think, from the back of the court, I'm just really excited to see these guys rally.
Yeah, Sinner has weapons too. Like that's the difference is, Kokkinakis could do it at times, but Van Rijthoven was swinging so freely from the baseline, right? It felt like he had to go 100% at all times just to earn himself any opportunity against Novak. Sinner doesn't have to do that, to your point. The rally ball for Sinner will be able to keep pace, will be able to create himself some opportunities. I'm telling you, dealing with a Jannik Sinner drilled return at your feet, it's Novak-esque in its effectiveness right now. And so, like, he'll have some opportunities. You're right, outside of the service games, that it won't always have to be a free point.
Yeah, I think Djokovic separates himself potentially in the consistency where
Yes.
like his forehand's just more reliable, and potentially in some of the variety that Novak brings, the drop shots, the slice,
If
more on.
if I was gonna say, there's also the intangible. You mentioned Bill Simmons. Like, isn't there some incredible right now? Nobody believes in us, and apologies for the cursing. Fuck you attitude right now for Novak Djokovic, where it's just like, hold on. 1 year ago today, I had just won my 20th major. I was gearing up for my first Olympic gold medal, and I was the unequivocal leader in the GOAT conversation. And now Rafa is 3 matches away from a 3 out of 4 legs of the Golden Slam. Like, I also think the reason why this match is so exciting is I think this is the one where we could see Djokovic turn up the gas and be like, no, 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 no. It's time for me to kill everyone the rest of the way.
Yeah, this is his first opportunity to make a statement,
Yes,
right? Because
exactly.
I mean, if let's say he did beat Van Rijthoven in 3 sets, it would kind of be like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. Look, I think there's a lot of pressure on him. I don't think he's going to feel it here in the quarterfinal. But I think at the end of the tournament, he's going to feel a lot of pressure to win it. All right, my pick is Novak in 4.
I mean, Sinner's my guy, so I'll take him to get a set as well. But no, I don't. I think this is a statement match. I think Novak
All
wins
right.
5-5. I think it's like 5-5-5 or 5-2-5, and Jannik plays it close. But I think Novak turns it up.
Okay. I hope we get I hope we get the Jannik Sinner of the previous round against Alcaraz, and it'll be really good. Goffin and Norrie. This is
Well, here's my question:
what happened here?
Is Cam Norrie the new David Goffin? Like from a benchmark, like gateway test into the top 10. Like if you're not beating Cam Norrie, you're not in the top 10. Cam Norrie as physical, immortal tennis player. Novak Djokovic immortal, but
Mm-hmm.
Norrie just tests you in every imaginable way. There is no discernible weakness in the game of Cam Norrie. That was the story on David Goffin throughout the course of his prime. And like Goffin might be the oldest, 31-year-old or however old he is right now. Yeah, 31, turns 32 in December, seemingly on tour. But like, I feel like when Norrie's done with his prime, he'll hope to be like, yeah, I was the David Goffin of my generation.
Yeah, I mean that would be phenomenal for Norrie. I think I'm trying to take the styles out of it,
Yeah.
and just think about the levels, because that's what you're saying right now, right?
Yes.
Um,
No, I think Goffin also is a lefty who hits heavy cross. I've never seen him play before. What's the deal? Yeah, no, he's a journeyman, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think Gaffan's career is kind of like a great goal for Norrie. Like
yeah.
that would be a success.
Hover in the top 10 for
Yeah,
like
because
5 years.
I couldn't see him being a Ferrer. Like I think that's a
Exactly.
step too far.
Yes, well
Um,
said.
okay, yeah. In terms of the head to head, just like to throw this out there. Gaffan retired in their only meeting, so you really don't get any sample size there. I like Gaffan in this match, who is the betting underdog. And I still like him. He is 4-1 since Marrakesh against lefties, with his only loss coming against Nadal. He is 50-31 at tour level against lefties. That includes the 2-5 losing record against Nadal. I I just love his backhand. When he's going up against lefties, I just think, and especially Norrie's, which can get a little bit spinny. I know he's working on it. I really like Gaffan to handle that cross court really well. Um, and I think he's a little bit more gifted offensively. And I'm looking at the surface, and I'm going to have a kind of a bias towards damage and finishing. And I just think Gaffan has a little bit more of that offense in him. It comes a little more naturally to him. So that's why I like him to move on and make the semis here out of nowhere.
You mentioned the lefty stats. Worth noting, he's 5-8 against lefties at the ATP Tour level since 2020. And I think a big byproduct of that, a lot of those losses coming throughout 2021
But he's
and
won
early
like 4 out of his
2022.
last 5.
No,
Do you know?
is he wasn't healthy. You're
He was
exactly
just
right. Like,
bad at
yeah,
tennis.
and so you have to throw those ones out because you're, yeah, yeah. It's not like you're not wrong. No big pushback from you here. Good analysis. Yeah, he just like he can hit the backhand now. He's just fluid again in the outer thirds of the court. And, again, David Goffin, talk about a player who just, it seems so natural on this surface, how he
It's
glides
beautiful.
across the court. Yeah, how he changes directions. Again, he may never win a Wimbledon title. They'll still offer him a long-term membership. They're like, no, it's fine. Like, just come on in. Like, don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. Like, who has the biggest weapon on the court? What is the one thing each of these players does definitively, better than the other? I don't know if I have a firm answer for either of those questions. And I'm not even going to look at the percentages because, again, Goffin's just a different player right now when healthy on this surface. But, like, Goffin will be able to handle the Norrie forehand, but Norrie's not a guy who overwhelms you. Norrie's a guy who just wants to open up space, who's going to slowly,
Mm-hmm.
spread the court and have you pushed all the way outside the alley on the ad side before he sneaks the forehand up the line. That backhand just going to be deep, well placed, going to neutralize the shot. It's just going to be tough
Or
to do.
short and angled.
Exactly. He just a guy who does a jack of all trades. Again, can do a little bit of everything. If you're talking about betting on this match, it's the over in terms of the games. I just think this one gets physical. I don't think there's a definitive advantage for either player. I'll take Norrie just because it's fun to disagree on a couple of picks here, simply because I just think physically, like this is his. This is just it's a perfect strike zone.
Sure.
He's got the British crowd. There's a little, they were like, should we get excited about this guy? Like, I'm not really sure. Now it's like, wait, he's in the quarterfinals. I think this is the first match where they'll get going. Now that can work as a positive and a negative because it can add to the nerves. But I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
take the glass half full and say it's the Wimbledon crowd that gets Norrie over the finish line in the fifth.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, I think it's a really tough match to call. I'll be
Yeah.
clear, and I'm curious to see how Norrie deals with the pressure, because I do think it's going to be like, okay, like time to be on the back page of the Telegraph or whatever. Um,
And we here in Parliament, in both the House of Commons, House of Lords, would like to honor Cameron Norrie with a knighthood as he reached the quarterfinals. Him and Murray, the only two since Henman in 04. Shout out to Jose Morgado for that stat. Yeah, we'll put it in the record books. Yeah, I mean, again, when was the last time they had a Brit in the quarterfinals? Like, I love when the Wimbledon crowd gets after, and I think they'll get after it.
I agree. I thought about the physicality aspect also, and I wanted to say like, oh, Norrie, best physicality there is. Like
Yeah.
that's a huge advantage. But then I'm like, Goffin doesn't get tired.
Yeah. He may have never sweat in his life. It's very possible. The only guy who, the shirt just stays dry.
Yeah. I won a 5-setter. Both of them won 5-setters
Yeah,
in
that's
the
the thing.
last round.
It's like, and neither comes in like definitively better rested. And
Yeah.
so it's just again, leave it out on the court. I'll take Norrie simply because I just think he can do more things right now.
Yes. Garin Kyrgios now. This is probably it's the least interesting of the quarterfinals. I mean, we can talk about Garin a little bit, but do you give him much of a chance here?
Only because he's so comfortable hitting the slider out wide on the deuce side. And I think I saw you tweeting about this or someone tweeting about this. I'm going to assume it was you because I only like to give credit to you about serving to the Kyrgios forehand versus the backhand. And like anyone who's serving to the Kyrgios backhand, you just haven't been. That's a litmus test of, okay, you didn't watch the film because the Kyrgios backhand return is going in. Like he's going to get that ball deep, center third of the court, or if you leave one short, he can turn into it inside in, down the line on the ad side. The forehand's the one with more moving parts, more extension, more wacky things. And I think the ball Cristian Garin hits, the slice serve in particular, jamming Kyrgios on the body, like it's a different sort of serve than the ones Kyrgios has seen thus far. Tsitsipas is very much serve big to the backhand, set up the +1 forehand. That's his bread and butter play. That's not really the case for Garin. But it's how healthy is Nick's shoulder? If his shoulder is at 85%, he's going to win this match. If his shoulder is at 55%, he can probably still win this match. I mean, he's losing first sets and still winning. So again, there's nothing on this surface that Cristian Garin does better than Nick Kyrgios, except for maybe hit the drop shot. Maybe.
But I mean, he's still so fast and physical, but yeah, if that's not going to pay dividends on any surface, it is this one where Nick's got so much firepower, like it's going to be hard for Garin to make this physical. I think De Minaur, and let's give that match a little bit of love. It was awesome.
Yeah.
At Garin's win over Alex, and I didn't see that one coming either. That one became this like physical baseline war. And I thought that was kind of De Minaur's downfall. Now he could have still won. It was a close match, but Demon just gave him too much rhythm and stayed back too much. And he got sucked in to this slugfest from the back of the court. And Garin felt great. He was like, is this clay or grass? Yeah. And there's just no way Nick is going to do the opposite. It's going to be like, he's going to get a drop shot before he gets 2 regular backhands in a row. You know what I mean?
Yeah. First of all, is De Minaur a top 5 watch on tour?
No, I think he's top. I think he's borderline. I think he's top 10.
I guess the combination of him and a good player is automatically a top 5 watch because just the physicality he brings. And it's like, well, he's going to push this player and absorb the pace. And just, again, Garin kind of mothballed him. It was like, no, I'm going to do that right back to you. But yeah, it's just all the rhythm Garin had today. You don't get that against Nick Kyrgios. And I was speaking with a former top 100 player yesterday about playing Nick Kyrgios and what that experience is like. And he's like, it's just miserable because not only is there all the other stuff going on, but then you get to the baseline and you're like, we've played 1 10-shot rally in this match. Like I haven't hit 2 backhands consecutively in 17 points. This is no fun. And it's just really tough to deal with. And I think for Cristian Garin, quarterfinals, heck of a run. Now, here's the difference. Nick Kyrgios is now playing as a front runner. And he was favored today, but we weren't ready to have the semifinal conversation after, he loses the first set, whatever. Now everyone's looking for him, Nadal, in the semifinals, expecting that of him. Is this where you lose a first set? Maybe things do slip away from you for the first time in 4 months. It's happened too many times to deny that possibility. I think this match has to be like if Garin wins the first set, can Kyrgios manufacture another comeback?
I think he can from a tennis perspective. I mean, I like that point against the pressure, about the pressure. I'm glad you brought that up because would it be the craziest thing in the world if Nick loses his mind and says my shoulder hurts and that's it?
Yeah, and just be like, yeah, exactly, I'm good. Or like, I mean, just like, is he gonna mutter like he's a dirt boulder? That was a bad Kyrgios impersonation. I apologize, but like, are we gonna see some sort of flare up, right? Where he's just like, how is this guy in the fourth round or in the quarterfinals, and he loses his head a little bit? Like that, Kyrgios' biggest enemy in this match is himself, unequivocally, no
Yeah.
question about it. I mean, I'm leaning Nick in 3. Yeah, more out of
Okay.
desire than anything else, but I think he does win in straights.
Yeah. Nick in 3 for me as well. And by the way, I know we didn't say sets, but I'll take a fan in 5.
Yeah, I'll go Norrie in. You know what? I'm gonna go Norrie in a tight 4. Tight 4.
Well, my viewers know this. My number of sets don't reflect how many sets I think it's going to be. It's my confidence. I think it's just a better way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100. I get it. Yeah, well said.
Lastly, Fritz Nadal, Indian Wells final rematch. I'm excited for this. I think it's pretty similar to Djokovic-Sinner. Like, I think you have Fritz and Sinner. The play style, I think, is the same. And I see them as pretty similar players, with, Sinner moving better and Fritz serving better. I think that's kind of the difference. But Taylor Fritz, I think he's a good matchup for Nadal. I think he's a really good player. He's 9th in the race. He's missed 2 Masters 1000s, and he's not going to be fearful of center court Wimbledon against Nadal. I think he's past that in his career, where I think he actually has a level of confidence in himself where he's gonna bring his best stuff. So I'm pumped for this one. I think it could be really good.
Yeah, I think that's a really good comparison. I think, and I alluded to this earlier, Fritz and Berdych, 2 guys who very robotic, as well. See ball, hit ball big from the baseline, and Fritz does have the sort of serve where he will be able to win some free points. He will be able to set up +1 opportunities for himself. I think Nadal's, I don't want to say Achilles heel, because he's looked fine in his first few matches, but the return is landing a little short in the court. And if you've watched Taylor Fritz at all over the past 2 weeks, and by the way, he did win that Eastbourne title coming into this tournament. It is week 3 for Taylor consecutively playing physical tennis. That is something to keep in the back of your mind, certainly. But when I watch Fritz play, he's gotten off to such strong starts over the past 2 weeks. He is coming out electric, and you have to do that against a Rafael Nadal. Of course, Wimbledon was a place it all started for Taylor Fritz. A little junior story here. I believe it was 2013 or 14 junior Wimbledon. Fritz, as a 16-year-old, makes a surprise run. It was 2014 to the semifinals, was unseeded, unheralded at the time. Of course, the next year, I believe he gets back to those junior semifinals, and of course, makes junior Roland Garros final, wins the junior US Open. I mean, his game is always projected so well to this surface. And, again, he has weapons to make life difficult for Rafael Nadal. He has the sort of backhand, the sort of requisite size, as we saw in Indian Wells, where the topspin forehand of Nadal, particularly on this surface, it's not going to overwhelm him if it gets to shoulder height or higher. He is going to be able to change directions and keep Rafa honest. That said, and I don't think it's ever talked about enough, but Rafa is an incredible volleyer. And I think that volleying on this surface, look, Rafa's played well. He's doing enough right now. And physically, that's been the thing, is he has been able to stand the test of time. He's also come out to such electric starts throughout the course of this Wimbledon. Again, this has been the perennial question for Taylor Fritz. It's never been about his tennis. It's always been about, is he athletic enough? Is he fit enough? Is he moving well enough to hang with the best of the best in tennis? Because his ground strokes are as good as anyone out there. Again, Rafa hasn't, this is another opportunity for him. All right, now I get a serious test. It's time for a statement victory. I don't know. Fritz is serving really well.
Okay, well, we went back and forth a couple of times there.
Look, this is where a 5-set pick.
Let me tell you where I think, or what I think. Yeah, I see this just like the Sinner matchup, where Fritz can bang with Nadal. I think they can go toe to toe in that kind of area, but Nadal is going to defend better, as you alluded to, with the athleticism. I think Nadal is going to use a lot of slice. He's going to mix it up more. There's going to be more variety. He's going to volley better. His transition game is going to be there. Like, I just think we are going to see both Djokovic and Nadal showcase what variety can do against two power baseliners who hit forehands and backhands just as well as Nadal and Djokovic, believe it or not, because that is what they do. But they just don't do enough other stuff. And, I do think Nadal is has the quality in his returning to make life frustrating for Taylor Fritz. So I'll be interested to see that. But the most interesting thing when it comes to Grass and Fritz is, like, Taylor is an amazing high ball hitter. And that's why he loves Indian Wells so much, besides for the fact that it's in his somewhat backyard, 2-hour drive, but still. Nadal needs to get the ball low. And I bet we're going to see that. I bet we're going to see him do that. We're going to see him bring him in. We're going to see the short slices. We're going to see the backhand hit, flat, short, cross court. Like, he's going to be able to do those things. And ultimately, yeah, I think variety is the deciding factor here, but I do think it'll be a good match.
Where I would slightly push back in the argument for Fritz, I actually think, as important as it is moving forward, volleying that skill set on this surface, I actually think bad volleyers are rewarded on this surface more than any other, because a bad volley is still an effective shot on a grass court. And Taylor Fritz, to his credit, no one will ever confuse him as a good volleyer. No one's going to say, is that Bob Bryan? Oh, no, it's just Taylor Fritz out there hitting volleys. Like, no one's ever going to say that. But, he has become much more competent moving forward, identifying, hey, I hit a great approach shot. I should move in behind this ball and try to hit a volley winner. Now, he has never been excellent
He's
at
trying
executing that volley. Exactly. And trying at times is enough on this surface, where just making the volley, because it's so hard to produce on the run magic. Like, if Taylor is willing to move forward, put himself in that position, he will have opportunities, because, again, Rafa is leaving some balls short. And, like, I think this match, like, what's the biggest weapon on the court right now? It's obviously Rafa's mind, but what's the second biggest weapon on the court? It's unequivocally Taylor's serve. And, like, it always helps to go into the gunfight with the biggest gun. And so I think for certain Taylor extends this match to 4 sets. I actually think this one goes the distance. I think Fritz has just always been a big match player. I think he thrives in this moment. I'm going to have Rafa surviving, but that's what I think it's going to take, is a survival from Rafa, because Fritz is playing that well.
Rafa needs to leave his comfort zone in this match is the
Yes.
thing. Like, I think if we're looking at, let's say, the cross court rally on the ad side, Nadal needs to hit the drop shot down the line. He needs to change with the forehand down the line. He can't rally passively to Fritz's backhand, or he's going to get hurt. He cannot he can't leave return short in the court, or he's going to get hurt. So yeah, I think Fritz is going to ask a lot of him. Again, I do think the peripheral skills are going to be important. I think we see a very tactical match from Nadal, and I go Rafa in 4.
Yeah, I'd just say 5, because I think Fritz, again, physically, like, if Fritz wins one of the first 2 sets, I think he's winning set 3 for sure. And, like, that's the question. Yeah, and I think Fritz is going to win set 1, because I'm just saying, watch the film. He's been so good in first sets. Hasn't dropped a set, I don't think, this week. And so at this event. And so
he hasn't.
Yeah, I think he wins set 1. I think Rafa always struggles, again, around that 2-hour 30, 3-hour mark. And then it becomes a battle of wills in set number 5. And you just never bet against Rafa in a battle of wills.
Yeah, he has at Wimbledon. I know you said that at the top. I saved this, but, like, there are also obviously some high profile examples this year where Rafa has done a great job of getting better as the match goes on. Like the 5-setter against Felix at the French, where his 5th set was just immaculate, just as an example.
That's a great comp. I think this is his Felix match.
I agree. Yeah. And I meant to say that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the perfect comparison for it.
Yeah. I'm still going to go 4, but this is a good test. And again, it's weird. I'm excited to see how it's the first match that I'm, from Djokovic and Nadal perspective, that I'm really looking forward to.
Can I get one 30-second soundbite from you on American men's tennis? We had, what, 4 in the round of 16, 8
Sure.
in the third round for the first time since 95 Wimbledon and whatever, 96 US Open.
Sure.
Asterisk or no asterisk next to that? Is that par for the course of where American men's tennis is heading?
Yeah, I feel like you pronounced it right 20 minutes ago with the asterisk, and then you went to asterisk. And I said asterisk in my John Wertheim interview recently, so I get it. It happens.
It's
No,
there's some great editing. It's still, I feel the lingering in the throat from the coughing earlier, so I didn't want to risk it.
there's there's definitely no asterisk with the success. And I think I forget who it was. One of them, I think it was Francis. He was like, "We're all seated. Like we were all supposed to do this."
Yeah,
like
it's a good
because
point.
everyone was like, "Wow, you guys did great." And Francis is like, "We're seated. Like we're supposed to make the third round."
Very true.
Right? And I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think the one guy who it hurts, this Wimbledon hurts. It hurts for Francis because he loses another tough one, and he's still well, look, I guess he wins the 5-setter against Rublev last year at the US Open, but it does feel like there are a lot of crushers for Francis at these majors.
By the way, Francis is everything you want in terms of an on-court entertainer. Talk about a guy who just understands how to manipulate and get the best out of a tennis crowd. I mean, nothing's better than in the post-match press conference last one where he just goes, "Yeah, fuck David." Like that's the perfect answer. It was the tone with which he gave it and the sarcasm and the joking, loving way in which he said it. Like that is what this sport is at its best.
Yes, and you know what? Besides being unfiltered towards some of his competitors, he's always going to keep it fully classy.
Yes.
Never going to talk any trash. Besides that, and he does the things on court that I think Nick does and people love so much because he has attitude on court, swagger on court that people gravitate to, and they think, "Oh wow, like he just hit a backhand volley winner and he held the finish for 10 seconds." Like that stuff's really fun and really great. And people will also say like, "Well, why don't we promote Francis like we do Nick?" At the same time, Francis doesn't have the wins that Nick does. I think if Francis did, he would find a ton of mainstream appeal.
We'll do this debate on a Great Shot podcast post Wimbledon. We'll do next gen tiers because sounds like we have some disagreement on who goes where. But then also, yeah, like absolutely in terms of best entertainers or just most captivating players, he has to be on that list. And it's an argument I've had before. Who getting good of this class of Americans would be the best thing for American men's tennis? Would it be Korda? Because Americans may not say it, here on July 4th, they love dynasties. Yeah, we seceded from one in the Brits, and we were.
I'm just going to say no right now, though.
Yeah, but like I think the answer. So no, Seb Korda, because again, he's a dynasty, right? Like his sisters, his dad, like that's a dynasty and a family. I think everyone can get behind the Korda family. But like it's Francis. It is unequivocally Francis. Him becoming a star would be the best thing.
Yeah, it's Francis. I don't think it's Seb because I don't think his matches are as fun. Okay. I think it's Francis and or Brooksby. I think Brooksby also. I mean, the way he goes at it.
Tommy. What about Tommy?
Tommy is so awesome. Handsome. I know he's handsome and his game is smooth and all that is great. Yeah. But no, I think it's Brooksby for the way he goes at it and competes and is pretty in your face about the way he does that. Again, I really appreciate that and I like that. But it is Francis. I agree with you. All right, the international audience, doesn't care about this.
Yeah, I was gonna say Alexander Kovacevic is like, what about me?
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. But speaking of entertainment value, and I'll end on this, which quarterfinal are you most looking forward to on the men's side?
Oh, Djokovic-Sinner. I mean, you got the unbreakable Novak Djokovic, the one everyone's chasing versus the next gen. Anytime you get those sorts of matchups, it just transcends everything else. Certainly, again, power rankings, I think it goes Djokovic, Nadal match, then probably Norrie-Kyrgios. I think it's pretty clear cut. But they're all going to be good.
Yes.
Even Garin, Kyrgios for
we disagreed. We disagreed on one pick. I took Gaffin, remember?
Yeah, true. Yeah, it still should be good. But I'm saying, like, in terms of entertainment order, I think it's pretty clear as well.
Oh, okay. Yes, I agree. Sinner Djokovic is my number one. But I think the Nadal match can be unbelievable as well. And we'll see. Whichever one is closer will probably be better. Gruskin, this was fun as always. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure, man.
Podcasts. So tell everyone how to find the daily podcasts.
You go to YouTube, you search Monday Match Analysis, but better. And when you do, Cracked Rackets is going to come up. No, of course. You find a Mini Break podcast, Cracked Interviews, Great Shot podcast. We've got recaps every day on Mini Break, picks every day for you, GSP. All of it available, crackedrackets.com, wherever you listen to your podcast. And yes, it is always a friend, always fantastic to see your smiling face, my friend.
You too, buddy. Thanks.